Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Lucid, and I am joined by the Honorable Sai.
Hello, I'm the Honorable Sai, and I'm joining our host Lucid. And it's looking like a pretty slow turn compared to the last one, at least. A lot fewer battles.
A lot fewer. We do have a dire portent though, and we haven't had a ton of those. So we are getting to that phase in the game where the global slots are gonna be filling up now. Because people have got much higher gym income than they did a while ago, and they've had a lot of time to accumulate some gyms. So, um,
And the research, of course.
and the research. So last episode we saw Pangea take a pretty rough fight against Vedheim. They lost a lot, but they didn't lose everything. And
Right.
Vedheim
Both
also has
sides,
more people coming in to attack them, so it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out.
yeah, both sides had, they'd been deploying less than what they could have been for different reasons. Vedheim because they were trying to hide tech, and Pangea because they were trying to spend fewer gems on that battle.
Yeah. And then we've got the ever aloof and somewhat curious movements of Arco. Let's look at his message. Pythium is about to fight both Tianchi and Arethia. We expect him to lose, even if it was 1v1 to either nation. We don't have a non-aggression pact with Pythium right now, but he's been a good neighbor all game, and we treat our true allies very well. It's not what it looked like last turn.
Okay, so he's explaining it here then. Yeah.
We proposed and accepted a deal to let us take 52 last turn. We'll then send him all the gold and gems from it till he's defeated or can take it back. This allows three things. Pythium gets gold or gems that he wouldn't have gotten because Tianchi would surely take it turn one of the war. 2, it denies Tianchi the gold and gems. And 3, most importantly for us, it forces Tianchi to funnel into 57 for a big fight instead of a raiding war. We're going to take 226 this turn and the same type of deal, forcing Arethia the long way around and securing the throne for us in the event Pythium loses.
Assuming that the other folks agree to, not go through the Arco claimed land, be like, hey, we need this for logistical purposes.
Yeah, I think most players are going to be inclined to not piss off somebody else if they can avoid it at the outset of a war.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, like, if their goal is, to try to do the raiding style of war, or otherwise, they need that for like army movement purposes, I don't think it's unreasonable if someone else is grabbing something to be like, hey, I need to go through here.
Oh, this is a dick move. Yeah, look at this. Like this Arethia stack preparing to attack Pythium, and Arco's like, whoop.
Yeah, blocks him off from that throne as well.
Yeah.
As Arethia, if I'm not scared of pissing off Arco, and I don't think that like Arethia should be. I think Arethia should, if they, I think that they should be casting scrying on most folks' capitals in order to like see where people are at. I think that if they like look at where Arco is research wise, they kind of know that Arco doesn't want to commit to like an all out war, especially not against Arethia, which would mean that it would be pretty safe for Arethia to piss off Arco.
I mean,
in this
Arithia
scenario.
really wants to get in this lake system too. You could just be like, boink, boink, boink.
But like, even if you just wanted to get to Pythium's throne, you could be
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm not respecting that you took this just now. We're taking it, and then we're going onto the throne, right? Like, I don't think that Arco can stop them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with TNG, the movement Arco did here to stop this, which basically blocks off the rating of TNG coming in through this area.
Yeah, TNG might respect it a little bit more, just in part because they have a bigger border.
Yeah, they have a huge border, and it's like there's a lot of places for this army to go. He can be like, okay, fine. But this with Arco is a little outrageous.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And like I meant, and like I mentioned, I don't think Arithia has to respect it.
Yeah, I don't think they should either. Yeah.
But we'll see.
We'll see.
Well, it depends on what the different players' assumptions are. Like Arithia might just be scared of attacking a neutral party, right? Like if they're playing very conservatively, they might just want to avoid, clicking on any flags that aren't the right color.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a horrible idea for Arethia to low commit fight both of them. I think they have the tech to do it. Like to actually just have a proper war against Arco and a proper war against Pythium.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Especially given the losses that Pythium has been suffering against Agartha.
Yeah.
They can be like, hey, TNG, go do the heavy lifting on this. We're still going to go fight, but also we have to deal with this jerk over here.
Yeah. And TNG does not like, well, do they? They were kind of, no, they were a little disgruntled with Arco at the very beginning of the game. Maybe that's smoothed out now, but.
Yeah. They haven't mentioned Arco, I think, at all relatively recently.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of TNG, message. Latch here.
Yes.
That was a crazy fight for Pan. Definitely one of those fights that makes all the players whisper together in private chats as we recalculate our understanding of the balance of power. Looks like Pan was expecting a very different fight from the one they got. And that's Dominions for you. Sometimes you think things are going to go one way, and then they very dramatically and catastrophically do not. Now, to have absolutely zero self-awareness. The writing is on the wall for Pythium, and it says, mine. Wait, what is the other thing?
Mene mene tekelu farsin.
Okay, well, do you know what that means?
No, but I can look it up.
Okay, I have no idea. Tekla Parson.
Oh, it's from the miraculous writing on the wall interpreted by Daniel as foretelling the destruction of Belshazzar and his kingdom.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, TNG pretty confident that Pythium's going to get wrecked. Hope he has some wood to knock on. Message from Pangea. It's difficult to play Dominions without making mistakes. For instance, one could forget to set a mage to patrol on a fortress, maybe 8 mages. Amongst them were 3 communion masters set to cast mass protection, solar brilliance, and relief. Ooh, woof. And maybe at the same time, yeah, darkness also made the Skelly spam a lot more effective. Solar brilliance would have had a major fucking impact that fight.
Yeah. Turn off darkness, burn some undead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they would have won with solar brilliance, especially solar brilliance and mass protection.
And relief.
Yeah.
Like those are 3 extremely critical spells.
Fatigue wasn't the deciding factor that battle though, but yeah, relief
it would have helped
still,
the Minotaur at least.
It would have helped, yeah. Well, I mean,
I think it would have helped his troops in general.
The Minotaur would have the Minotaur were going to be fatigued out whether relief was up or not. Let's not mince words about that.
Yeah, but like even like one more round of trampling,
maybe
2 defense plus 1 attack on the dryads. Like there are lots of little ways where your fatigue numbers matter.
Yeah. But they were fatigued out within a round of entering combat, so they're gaining like 80 fatigue a round. But
yeah,
gaining 2 fatigue a round isn't that big of a difference.
Yeah, the Minotaurs were not having a great time, which they rarely do. But with cold auras surrounding them, even worse than usual.
Yeah, the solar brilliance though would have been really fucking huge. It would have swung that fight, I think. And maybe at the same time and place where you wanted a big Vedheim stack. Whoops. Would have made it closer. At least we probably made it to the title of the previous video. Yeah, you probably earned that spot. No point kicking ourselves now. So we're planning for our immediate future, trying to get others involved in against Vedheim, assembling another stack and spending most our gems and empowers to catch Vedheim by surprise if we fail a second time. Ooh, that's spicy. What do you think he's empowering?
I think the only thing I could think of that for which empowering makes sense is doing round 1 versions of stuff, so you can cast things outside of a communion. But I don't know what all is there that you would need. And I mean, presumably he can also use his god, right? Yeah. For like killing winds, or even just like dropping it separately for bone grinding.
My thinking is maybe he's gonna do it on astromages like sages to bring stuff into a communion that otherwise wouldn't be expected. But
yeah. And he also already has that adept, so you can put fire in that communion as well. Yeah. But there isn't much that you can do with fire that you can't also do with water for this particular thing. And doing some resistances wouldn't be amiss.
Right. If we fail a second time, we will be done. But judging by the Agarthan resistance, we may still be alive for quite some time. Talimshia. So yeah, I think if he does have another, like he basically can assemble one more major army in the Mictlan area reasonably quickly. Like, he probably needs to recruit a little bit more, but he can put it together reasonably soon. If he loses another major army, he's not really going to be able to protect that region. But it doesn't mean he's going to be out of the game. It just means he's probably going to lose the Mictlan region.
Yeah.
But that's a huge step back because you want to be getting stronger at this point in the game, not losing ground.
Yeah, and while, he absolutely can replace all those mages, anytime you lose 30 fort turns of recruitment is a big deal.
Yeah. Next, we have a message from Gath. I windowed, so that's Astral Window, Zabalba's enchantment blood Twitty site and let everybody know. Zabalba is probably the only thing that threatens my existence at the moment, as I can't keep any forces in the west after that army lost 2 turns ago. He has at least 160 Aussies and summons a lot each turn, while I only have about 50 Seer total, and I'm only starting to develop proper blood. The overall diplomatic situation is way worse than it was 5 turns ago for me. The clock is ticking. While I'm not growing more powerful fast enough, Team Chiarethia and Arco are about to eat Pythium and will all grow even larger. Still, I'm doing what I can, trying to finish off Marignon and developing blood and research. After that, if I'm not perceived as a major threat, and I shouldn't be, I'll be watching for opportunities. P.S. I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but 230 is now a fully developed ABBA-powered research factory that a Drain Gath player should aim for, I think. Each mage there has plus 6 RP over what they would have in Drain. At this moment, this results in a bonus of 132 research power. Of course, magic will decline over time, since Dominion spread and scales modification happen after Heretic Preaching, but it will still provide a lot of free research before that happens, and when it does happen, the whole stack may be moved elsewhere. PPS, 45 gold sages with 20 undead leadership are amazingly terrifying, are amazing at ferrying Sayur to the front. At this point, it really helps with the drawback of having to summon them in the cap because there's no other wastelands in the vicinity. What did
Yeah, so that undead leadership less is a huge deal for Gath in general. What was that?
Yeah, which of the where's the
second from the left?
Okay,
second from the left.
This guy.
Yeah. Those guys are sacred, so they actually get the undead leadership. So you're using them as lab rats, and that kind of gives them like a secondary purpose.
Nice. Okay.
Although really the only ones that you want to be using for that purpose are the ones that get the astral random. Those guys, or any of the randoms really, but the astral ones in particular because they're actually useful in battle. The other ones are only really useful with gems or boosters.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. What province was he saying that was? That was he turned 230.
So he mentioned that he's got this. 3. Yeah, so he mentioned that he's keeping it that way with the heretics, but he has a border with Pythia or Pangea. So he can actually put heretics on the border with Pangea, and because Pangea should have more temples than he does due to Pangea having discounted temples and Gath having the expensive guys. So when there is Dominion pressure to actually move that scales, it should keep it at Magic 3.
Okay.
So if he sets up his research thing south next to Pangea's throne there, and then stacks a bunch of his heretics in there, then when they're there or even the one just to its south, something along that border, that should be pretty easy to keep in Magic 3 scales.
Okay. That's really cool. We hadn't really talked about the heretic play with Gath before, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't personally consider that super core to Drain Gath's playstyle, but I'm glad that he found that workaround so he can actually keep using his regular mages because he has those great indie mages to use. I guess he lost the Throne of Knowledge, but if he had a pile of sages, it would have been great for that. And he's definitely getting those crystal sorceresses, and the jade sorcerers, both of which benefit a ton from having those magic scales.
Yeah, it is a long hike for the indies down here to make it all the way up this way, but maybe he could find, like you were saying, something to set up near Pangea that they could move to in one turn with boots or something.
Yeah, it's interesting that Gath actually has such high dominion there, though.
Yeah.
I guess that's not a throne that Pangea claimed. Is that the Throne of Misfortune or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, throne. Okay, that explains it.
And then let's look at the last messages before we start spoiling the fun. Hello again. So obviously my gamble failed. Pan did in fact set up a move in patrol. I knew he had reinforcements, so I didn't expect that. However, he made scripting mistakes, which caused me to still win in the end.
Forgetting those all-important buffs. Yeah.
Right. I'm expecting to get gym baited a few times, and storming is not fun if he uses his god to bone grinding versus me. But I'll figure that out as we go. Okay.
Yeah, and as long as on top of the fort, he can't actually be baited.
So, So Utgard moves out and has now pulled the trigger on the Vedheim War and has rolled out with everything. This is the entire mage corps we saw previously. Oh, so many mages. Let's see if he changed anything in the scripting here. He's changed the positioning.
Okay.
They're no longer clustered around the mages like they were.
Yeah, now he's vulnerable to different things, but at least that he's not targeting himself for Evo.
Yeah. Do we see a Turbo Communion setup? That's the other question here, of course.
So they're both in werewolf form, so that's good. But no, they're just thugs.
Yeah, I expect more from Squeak. I don't think there's a good reason to not do a Turbo Comedian. I can't think of any.
Agreed. And it's late enough in the game that like he should have had time to buy the strategy that he needs to set this up.
Yeah. And Squeako definitely knows about it, so he's definitely making a decision to not do it. I just can't understand why he would do that. But
yeah, that's the choice he made.
That's the choice he made. On the Vedheim front, Pangea pinks this with the scout, and this fort, which was not popped the previous turn, is now popped. Otherwise, not really any movement or action. Notably, there's a lot more troops on this turn now. So
that's going to make things a little harder for Xibalba, but given just how much stuff he's got there, like that's a massive pile of sacreds.
Yeah.
Like not just the Ocelotls, although, you know, obviously mostly the Ocelotls, but he's basically got his, like the entire game of the Obsidian Warrior production.
Yeah. I mean, if the ring that he can freeze everything around them, they're going to win. But I think, didn't Xibalba have like 10 cold resistance or something? Or was it only 5? Let me see here. You show us a blessing? I guess there's nothing sacred.
So. Yeah.
No.
But more importantly, his stuff's just going to die very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you can make Rimvedi. I mean, maybe with luck and body ethereal, if you had enough mages. I mean, Vedheim is a very sweaty nation, right? So to test all the ways that, like, if you really sharpen your pencil, is there a way to tank these guys with Rimvedi? You know, I don't think so, but maybe, because we're looking at crazy things. Like, you'd be putting Legions of Steel on these guys too, and
Iron Warriors
potentially, you know, like.
Although worth noting, those do have magic weapons, so body ethereal is not going to help.
Right. But like Moss Body and Legions of Steel, and I don't think it'll work, but this also is not a super strength stacked group of Aussies. It may be possible that Vetti can do it. But anyway, I don't.
At the very least,
I don't think
it's
the
very hard.
Yeah, I don't think the odds are in their favor, but I'm very curious. What this tells me. So first of all, there's things we know. We know that the cat's out of the bag, if you will, on the Aussie production and the blood discount site. Like people, they've all been told, right? And they were told last turn. So Vedheim has chosen to reinforce this position, knowing full well all about the Aussies, which means
I think those Aussies are super compatible.
Yeah. Vedheim thinks they can take this fight, is what this tells me. Rather than, they haven't negotiated, they haven't abandoned the position, they think they can take it.
The other possibility, I should say, is that they might let the Aussies like land on the fort and then see what's actually there, and then sneak out if they decide they don't want to take it.
Well, that's true. That's true. You can't force them to take a fight.
That's Vedheim for you.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a good caveat to that. Do we see the Pangea? Oh, no. So this war hasn't started yet. This is a Cold War still. And then Agartha. Let's go see what's happening with Agartha. Where are they? Okay.
They're under all the green flags.
Here we go. Yeah, just look for green.
Okay, so they did bounce, but that's a very, very minimal commitment. That's basically just enough to beat PD.
Right. Pythium was doing kind of what he had done before, which was, in the face of a defeat, come out swinging and try to put the fort back under siege, which is usually a good move. But here Agartha is like, we know your tricks. and wipes these guys without losing anything.
I'd still say it's a good move. Even if it didn't work, it's still like a very, very low commitment from Pythium to go poke him there.
Sure, I'm not saying it's a bad move. And I mean, if anything, you're making him keep this stack at home rather than raiding out. But it is more attrition that Pythium can't really afford to have.
Yeah, I mean, 10 combatances are probably not going to swing the war against Erythia and TNG, but yeah, everything kind of counts, and he's already at such a major disadvantage against those two nations that, like, this Agartha war taking any longer is just making things harder and harder for him.
Yep.
I like that Marignon sailed up there, because they do draw income through sailing.
Oh my gosh. It's not just sailing up there, it's super combatant.
Well, no, this is a thug because he died.
Oh, right. That's right. You decide whether it's a thug or super combatant after the battle's over.
Yeah. If it wins, it's a super combatant. If it dies, it's a mere thug.
That's right. So a few air elementals. Now, this guy's size 5, right? Yeah. What the fuck is he doing with the thistle mace? He must have picked that up off somebody.
That's my suspicion as well, because he didn't have any weapon, if I recall correctly, in the last battle.
Yeah.
He was just the shield.
So he's already down to 24 hit points. Trampling is just a hell of a drug.
Yeah, it's like 20 armor-piercing damage, I believe. And
Yeah.
even though he's avoiding 3/4 of those with Body Ethereal, Air Elementals trample multiple times in a turn because they have very high combat speed.
Yeah. So, rip all of this.
And that was a great move from Marignon.
Yeah, I mean, this is a clutch fucking move from Marignon. That's so good.
And he presumably gets to pick up a fair amount of that stuff because he's got 4 commanders there.
Yeah. And I mean,
it's not like they're kitted out.
And he could, Marignon's got gem problems. He could sell this stuff. Like, this is easily marketable material. So,
oh yeah,
boosters,
messenger boots. Yeah, those are very efficient items in general. Like, yeah,
right.
Folks are happy to pay for them.
Yeah, and then turn those into gems, and turn those gems into elementals, and you are well on your way to extracting a pound of flesh.
And the hat in particular is construction 6. And sure, we're at the stage in the game where people can hit that, but not everyone's going to be there, and a fair number of nations can actually really use those boosters.
Yep. So Gath raiding out, taking this, and then
although the fact that Gath, presumably that Gath made them himself, if he is at construction 6, that also means that he can make a bunch of lightless lanterns, though, which is going to be huge for his research.
Yeah, let's see. We should take a look and see if it's ticking up.
He did mention that he was getting construction 6.
We can see an inflection point right here a couple turns ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sages are really great for that because you genuinely don't mind losing those guys once they get horror marked up. Because they're really only lab rats. So making them more effective at that job and then having them die incidentally as you finish up your research, it's perfect.
Yeah.
They're basically the perfect research booster holders.
Yeah. So he's moved the big stack on top of this fort, and Marignon had evacuated this. So it looks like they've successfully moved everything to their capital, which was, well, hold up.
Okay, well, so he didn't move the devils over.
There's we get a glimpse into the assassin game here.
Oh, well, that's a very low commitment guy. Yeah, that's just a swarmcaster.
He's got his talent scouts out. Looking for new recruits.
He's casting Bless first, though, which is odd.
Yeah. They may have been off. They were probably moving in this turn, so they may have been off script.
Yeah, so he finds those guys with the devil, although that also means that the devil can't bring the Mound King can't bring those devils to his capital.
Yeah, he would have to put it on a sailor with a undead leadership item.
Yeah, luckily Lifelong Protection does do that, but the captains don't have base undead leadership. The Gota captains do, but the regular ones don't.
Importantly, Marignon hasn't pinged this, so he doesn't know what's here. And this army moved on this turn, so he has no idea what's here, because I think the move from Marignon that you kind of have to make is you have to send everything here. The problem is a lot of his army, his mages here, these adepts, and the mages can't join.
Yeah, They don't sail. So I actually, yeah, I don't think that Marignon takes that move. I think that if Marignon wanted to defend that fort, he would have had to move into the adjoining province this turn.
Yeah.
And the fact that he didn't do that says he's giving up that fort.
Can they can make the little cheap chart makers any fort, right?
Yeah. The
and
capital
they can
guys,
sail, right? Like these guys.
yeah, they're coastal, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he can't make them any fort, but any coastal fort.
Yeah.
The big guys are the cap only guys, the
Royal Navigators. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of sucks in a way because like this final plan has come down to fighting around the lake, and he doesn't really have mages which can use that anymore. Like, so the fact that even if some of them can sail, you can't ever take a big fight unless you can bring your mage corps. So
yeah, he's preparing for a capital showdown.
yeah.
He already had showdown part 1, and then yeah, he's gonna have like a one last hurrah. And if he wins, he might get one more last hurrah out.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be harder and harder for him.
Yeah.
In part just because he's already seen the Gath is deploying foul vapors now, and he still doesn't have any nature mages, and he can't even get nature mages without calling his god back.
Right.
We're theoretically empowering, but like in practice, like that's not really feasible.
Yeah, no sign of the god yet. Okay. So that's the state of this war.
Well,
Doesn't look like there's going to be a fight here for this unless we see something really fancy.
He doesn't even have priests is the other thing. Like he can't call his god back.
A prophet, right? But yeah.
Yeah, but that's 3 per turn. You need like 50.
I mean, he can get these guys, just slam 3 per turn of them if he wants to. Oh, wait,
Yeah.
Does he not have temples?
Ooh, he lost his temples, actually.
He has no temples.
He must have lost it from an event. Okay, yeah, earthquake struck.
Wait,
He
but that was
literally
a long
has 0
time ago. Holy shit.
Yeah, I guess you never really feel the pressure to recreate your temple until you actually need it.
Yeah.
Although in this case, I don't think that he would have the time to call his god back anyways.
His dominion is remarkably stable for having 0 temples.
0 temples, 0 gods, 0 problems. He does
Yeah.
have the throne, I guess.
Which one? Oh yeah, that's true.
The inner throne. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. We've covered the Utgard, the Pythium conflict. TNG sitting on the border. Let's just go through the battles, make sure I didn't miss anything. This looks like some peak dominions.
I mean, Revenants are actually very efficient because they have massive undead leadership. But yeah, you're probably not using that when you have only 13 devils.
Yeah. Competences. Okay, we've seen all this now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
So-
we kind of called it when the turn first started that it's going to be quite a bit shorter. But the one thing that I do want to point out is that outside of that nibbling at Pythium, Arco has not moved up to the Shibalban border from Ulm. So it looks like he is in fact sitting tight for at least one more turn.
Right. He didn't do the immediate attack, but it probably makes sense for him to pull the dagger out once we see Zabalba roll out. So I think if Zabalba attacks this coming turn, then Arco would attack the turn after. Potentially. That would be like the first timing he would consider. But that might not, he's not going to have much research by then. Or not, he'll have more than Zabalba, but not a ton. He may choose to just tech up hardcore. So we'll see.
Yeah, he might even just wait until he sees Shibalba take significant losses. So like if Shibalba's just given a free ride and just grabs that fort and doesn't keep pushing, so that he basically sees that the entire Sacred Army is still in the same theater, then he might just hold off completely. Because, for all that Arco's been very aggressive, he also hasn't been dumb. Every fight that he's taken has been one that's been very favorable. And the people that he's been bullying are people whom he can bully. Like, he hasn't tried to pull those same shenanigans against, say, Erythia until this very turn. Until this very turn.
Yeah, okay.
And even then, he didn't attack Erythia. He just took a Pythium province. He took a province from Erythia's enemy. So outside of Erythia, disrespecting that and, like, pushing through that province, which, I think that is a very reasonable thing to do. Yeah, he's not like explicitly picking a fight there.
Yeah. All right, well, it's going to be exciting. Next turn, we should see a bunch of fights break out. We've got Vettiheim has popped this fort. So we'll probably see a big battle here. We'll get to see if Marignon rides out to defend this fort against Gas, which they probably can't because they can't move their mages. We'll get to see the first turn of the war with Tianchi and Pythium and with Aretha and Pythium. And we may even see Zabalba roll out against Vedheim. And then we'll get to see the Utgard Doomstack presumably go on this throne.
Yeah, that throne's isolated. It's kind of a giveaway, though, which means that Vedheim has a bunch of traps that they can pull. Because he's moving into a throne that has his earth and air mages in it.
Right. We didn't really check this mage core for gems either. I'm guessing he has Serpent's Blessing. It
was pretty light.
Okay, well, we can check it real quick. There's a lot of mages to scroll through here, so it's...
Yeah, you can just use the arrow, right?
No,
just go next.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't let you do that?
No, sadly.
Okay. Yeah, I remember looking through this and thinking that like this was a very unprepared army.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I'm making that assumption is even if you like look just at the battlefield, there's no blood slaves.
That's true. Well, that would make sense because he doesn't have a turbo communion and he doesn't have other blood mages, so.
Yeah, that's fair. But he's not even doing anything with the Nornas. I guess he doesn't have blood there.
Not a single gem on this whole stack. That is a little surprising.
Yeah, this army is basically asking to get wiped one way or another.
I'm a little disappointed, my friend. What are you doing? There's literally everything you've made and you don't have a single gem on a mage. Oh god. Okay. So yeah, this army's asking for all sorts of trouble. Well, tune in next time and we'll see what kind of trouble they end up getting served. We'll see then.
But the other thing is they're hacking into a nation that's like known for traps.
Yeah, known for fuckery. And this is super vulnerable to all sorts of fuckery. So we'll see what flavor they get served up next time. We'll see you guys.